Welcome everybody to another edition of LifeWorks Live. This is a show where you can call in with the tough questions and get the real answers. So if anybody wants to call in, we got the number on the screen there for you, 403-632-4087. And today we're going to talk about calling it relationship rescue. So we're going to talk about 10 things that will make any relationship stronger. And there's a lot more than 10 things that we can talk about, but we just picked 10 for tonight. And you know, I really love this topic because it's what we live, and it's what we coach, and it's what we've seen work in many cases. Anybody that's willing to actually practice this stuff can really sees it work. So really happy to be doing this topic tonight. Also, we're going to do our conscious toolbox, where we're going to pull out a tool, something you can use in your everyday life. And we're also going to talk about a weekly challenge, which we try to do every show. And what else we got in the show today, Lisa?
Well, for the next thing is our conscious question of the day. And this came up in our coaching business. There's this one person at work that drives me completely crazy. She always thinks she knows everything about everything. How do I handle that? So we're going to bring that up as we go through the 10 things that make any relationship stronger. And then answer any other questions that we've received online or people want to call in tonight. So we're open to all of that.
Good. That's a great question, because I think there's a lot.
Everybody's got one at work. Like that. Or in their family.
Has one or has had one at least.
Yeah, exactly. Or was one.
Yeah, there you go. That too. Okay, so we'll just jump right into it. We're going to run through our 10 points here. So number 1, other people are not here to make us happy. So you got to recognize that other people really are not here to make us happy. Happiness is an inside job, is what we try and call it. Mm-hmm. So really happiness, really has to come from inside yourself. Others may bring you joy, but that's different than actually your baseline level of happiness that you're living with, that you're experiencing. So basically we're all responsible for our own happiness. So happiness really is a choice or a mindset. Mm-hmm. Different people can be in the exact same situation. One person might be happy with it, another person might be unhappy with it. Mm-hmm. So recognizing that it really doesn't come from outside, it has to come from inside. Any more to add to that?
Yes, because when we say that, like how often we're coaching people and we say, they'll come in and say, my husband just doesn't make me happy anymore. And I'm like, good. It's never been his job. Yeah. It's not my husband's job either.
Then the question becomes, do you make yourself happy?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, I don't do that either.
No. Well, we got lots of places.
Then that's the place to start.
Yeah, we got lots of goals to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, number 2 is make an effort to connect every day. And I want to add to these 10, Dawn, that some of these 10 are very connected to your intimate relationship. Some are more for coworkers, or some are like for family. Or children. Mm-hmm. So they're not specific to just one thing.
Not just your primary relationship. Yeah, exactly.
Right, so making an effort to connect every day. So whether we're talking about our partner, coworkers, or kids, the same rule applies. Like connection is, especially I want to talk about even with our kids. Like in order to correct behavior in our families, we have to connect first. We have to show them that we're invested and we love them unconditionally. That we can separate their behavior from their value. And we can do that in our coworkers too. Because, it depends if you work for a big corporation or a small business like we do. We are all different personalities coming together. And the way to make that successful is that we have connection.
That's a great point.
As well as our partner, of course, is, our primary partner. We want to make connection first so that anything that comes up, I already have a connection. And we know a lot, like people who come to us that are having struggle in their marriage, they just say there's just no connection. We're not connecting. We don't even know how to communicate anymore. So to make a successful relationship happen every day is making a commitment to connect. So that's number 2.
Yeah, because once you start drifting apart, that can be a slippery slope. And until you actually stop and make a conscious effort to really make changes around that.
And people say, well, what do we do when we're already this far apart? We're like, even becoming aware and sharing, hey, I don't feel connected to you anymore. And it's making me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I wish we could be more connected.
Yeah.
Just opens the door to saying, how do we do that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, we move on to number 3. Brutal honesty and vulnerability. And even when you may feel shame. And we recognize that this is something that may take time, and it's something where you actually have to build safety and trust first. And so you may not come out with the big whopper right off to do that. I mean, it's almost like normally in relationships people will test for safety. It's a very, very common thing. Oh, I'm getting a call. Just check the phones here.
Yeah. Hi, are you calling in for the show?
I can't get the music to stop playing over the show.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
good.
appreciate you calling
Thank
in.
you for calling.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
There we go.
Is
Okay,
it
now?
fixed now?
Pardon me?
It's corrected? It's good? Thank you.
I think so. Sounds better.
Okay.
Thank
all right.
you.
Appreciate that.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good. We needed that
Yeah.
call.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so we were talking about testing for safety, which is very common for people. Like they'll say a little something and then see how a person reacts, and if they get a negative reaction, they're like, okay, that's the line. We're not going to go any more vulnerable than that. And if somebody says, oh, that's tell me more, or I'm okay with that, and you get a positive reaction, or at least a neutral to positive, or empathetic, or something along that line, you're much more likely to say, oh my gosh, that was number 5 on the list. Maybe I can go to the next level.
And you know, in our relationship, even is saying, thank you for being honest. Like, I'm not very happy right now, but you are honest. Right? And I'm going to process this.
Whoa, that's kind of a whopper. But
that's a whopper, yeah.
It's honest, it's out in the open now, and now we can deal with it, and we can deal with it together, as opposed to it being like under the carpet somewhere, right?
Yes. Do we want to review, like, our viewers wouldn't have heard the beginning of the show? A quick review?
A quick review,
Okay.
since in case anybody was missing it because of the musical thing.
Okay.
Okay, number 1, in case anybody missed it, other people are not here to make us happy. Recognize that happiness, we call it an inside job. Happiness has to come from yourself, come from inside yourself. Are you making yourself happy? Are you doing what you need to do to make yourself happy? People around you might bring you happiness or might bring you joy. But if you separate it between, like, if somebody actually brings you joy, not necessarily happiness, because happiness comes from inside, joy would come from outside, essentially.
Spending time together.
Spending time together, exactly. I'm not saying that Lisa doesn't make me happy or we don't have fun times together. But ultimately I'm responsible for my happiness, and she's responsible for hers. It's not my responsibility to make Lisa happy. She's not responsible to make me happy. Happiness is a choice. It's a mindset. Two different people can be in the exact same situation, exact same circumstances. One might be happy with it, one might be unhappy with it. So recognize it comes from within, and nobody else is responsible for your happiness.
Right.
As much as you'd like to say this person doesn't make me happy, or this person makes me angry, again, you've got to find the happiness from inside.
You've got to own that one yourself.
Yep.
And number 2 is make an effort to connect every day. And that applies to our partners, our coworkers, and our kids. If something's coming up with our partner, coworkers, or kids, we need to stop and connect first. We can't just barrel right into, what's happening, there's mistakes, or I need to correct behavior, or we need to look at issues. We need to connect first, because then we're going to have a much better outcome that would be successful if we connect first. And show appreciation and gratitude for what these people bring to our lives. That's an easy way with a coworker, is to say, I so appreciate working with you, and how much I value having a connection at work and working together on this team. And then you can deal with any issues.
It opens the door for open, honest communication too, right? As opposed to just being on, keeping distant.
And then, I'm going to add to something like that before we even move forward. And I'll usually coach people to say something like, I feel like I let you down. or I'm letting myself down by not being honest with you. It's like not saying you, it's like talk about yourself, right, in that connection.
Yeah. Now I'm going to back up even farther, back to where we're calling the show Relationship Rescue, and the 10 things that we're going to talk about today, and why I'm so happy, why I like this topic so much. And even though, like I said, it's what we live, and it's what we coach, and it's what we see working for people all the time. However, I also want to go back and say we've also spent most of our lives not doing any of this. We've made great mistakes. We didn't connect with our kids the way we could have or should have when we were raising them when they were younger. We've had relationships that failed, and difficult relationships, and all these kind of things. So yes, are we living this now? Yes. But
did we always?
Did we do it for the last?
No.
Closer to the mic.
Okay.
But yeah, so yes, we're doing this now. Have we done this for
our whole lives?
For our lives, most of our lives? No, we haven't. So, but we are moving forward.
Absolutely. And now we can coach it because let the truth be known, we've made every mistake in the book. So, and that makes for a good teacher.
Yeah, we know both sides of the story.
So you've talked about brutal honesty being number 3.
Number 3, brutal honesty and vulnerability. And even if it's something where you're feeling shame or embarrassment or something around that, it's important to be vulnerable and willing to share. And like you're saying, it takes time. And sometimes you have to test for safety with somebody, whether it's your partner or a coworker or somebody, where you say, you know what, I'm going to be a little bit bolder here and see what kind of reaction I get. And if you actually start building a rapport with somebody with that, and then, you know, they might think, wow, I'm really happy you shared that with me. And then somebody might say, you know, I have an experience similar to that. And then now you start building even stronger rapport and much more safety. And then you can say, oh, you know, have you ever experienced this? And you're like, yeah, oh my gosh, I would never have been willing to share with that. I'm so happy you did. And it's just something where you can continually build rapport and safety and connection with people by being vulnerable and sharing these pieces.
And I'm going to add to that too is, like, even in a working environment, saying, I don't want to let this team down, right? And you open the door for the team going, oh, well, like, you're not here to criticize us or to say you're better. You're saying, I'm willing to be vulnerable, right? And say, I want to get honest. I don't feel like I'm giving my best and, you know, contributing. And that can be just as much for a relationship, a primary relationship, an intimate relationship, or even parenting. Right? Saying, you know, I feel like I'm letting you down. I'm not connecting with you enough, and I want to spend more time with you, and I want to be a better parent. Tell me how I could be a better parent.
Got a whole section on how to apologize to your children
and
move forward.
Yes, exactly. All right, so we're going to jump right into number 4, and we're going to pull from the Conscious Toolkit. And this is something that we teach at our events all the time, and I teach it in coaching every time because it changes everything dramatically instantly. And that is words and phrases to eliminate. So if you want to write these things down, I promise you it will change almost every relationship that you have. Because our words are very powerful, more powerful than what we even know. And it makes a huge difference in the relationships that we have. So if we want more connection and stronger relationships, we have to make more of an effort to be mindful of how we're communicating. So these are the things you can change. The first thing is should. We should on ourselves all the time. I should go to the gym. I should do better. I should connect when I'm not. And we have to eliminate that word, because the word should means someone's wrong or something's wrong. Something's always wrong or somebody's wrong.
Yeah, it's somebody to blame or somebody that's not following through.
And we change that word to could. And right when I say it, I could do that. I could be a better parent. I could speak up at work. I could, you know, or even walking into a room where your kids are playing. Could you clean up? It's time for bed. And they have a choice.
I could empty the dishwasher.
You could.
Instead of I should.
That's right. Right? It just opens the door to choice. And that's how connection happens and how success happens if there's choice.
And think how that makes you feel, from being something that's coming across as saying you've done something wrong, or there's something wrong with this situation, to there's a choice involved here. What choice are you going to make?
And it's the same as even if I'm leaving for the evening and we still have dishes in the house, I'll say, could I leave this with you? So I can go connect with a friend who needs me or something.
Yeah.
Like you could say, no, I got things to do too. And then I go, okay, well now I know where you stand. Could we do it when I get home together?
Yeah.
Right? And then we have choice.
Definitely.
There isn't, which takes us right to the next one, never and always, because then I could jump right in and say, you always say that and you never clean up. Right? And we are in a fight instantly. It's a fight. So never and always are on our list of words and phrases to eliminate. So that's the second one, never and always. And what we can replace that with is, when this happens, I feel. Right? So instead of saying, you never take out the garbage, saying, when I take out the garbage every week, I feel that we don't have an equal relationship. And I'm doing most of the work.
Exactly. And then you're owning it and making me aware of how you feel about it, and then I can make a choice around that from there, right?
Yeah.
And same thing, vice versa. It's all about, this is how I feel. Now that you're aware, would you make a different choice? And you may or may not, and that's still your choice.
Right.
But at least at least the other person actually aware how you feel about it, what the situation is. Because so many times there's just this, I don't even know how you feel about it or why you're mad about it, right? Unless you tell me, and then I know. And men tend to be a little dense around those kind of things, and we have to be told exactly, explicitly, how you feel, because we, as much as we'd love to read your minds, we can't, and vice versa.
Fair enough. And the other thing is, even when we're coaching and people say that, and they say, oh, my partner, they never do that, or they always do that, and I go,
You know that's not true.
always and never? Honestly?
That's never true.
No, it's a blame game. You're in the blame game, and you'll get nowhere fast in the blame game. So it's giving you new vocabulary to use. Okay, more words and phrases to eliminate, but. The word but. So I'm going to use an example. But negates whatever you've said before. You can say, I love you, honey, but you're driving me crazy, right? And so what do you hear? You're driving me crazy, right? You don't think of it. It totally negates what you said before. And I mean, the word but, there's places for it in our vocabulary, but when you're using it to hurt somebody, and you often are. And so we replace it with however or and, like, I love you, and I'm having a hard time connecting. Instead of, I love you, but you never listen to me. There's such a difference in those two phrases.
Great examples.
Right? So, eliminate but, replace it with however or and the last one is I know. And I know means I'm done. So if you say you wanted to share something with me and I just go, I know, then it just stops.
It's the end of the conversation.
Yeah, there's no connection or no flow. But if I go, oh, I get that. Yeah, I understand how that made you feel. If I change it to I understand, or even if you're sharing something with me and I go, I understand.
Yeah.
It's a welcome to what comes next. There's more conversation to be had.
And then you can go deeper and say, I understand that, but what about this? And then there might be more to come, right? So
it often happens in the at work with coworkers, because someone will say, this is how we do this, and you go, I know. So it means, don't tell me what to do, because I already know it.
Exactly.
Instead of saying, thank you. Yeah, I understand that part.
Have you thought about this? And then it's like, oh, now we're in the conversation.
And we're connecting. And we're sharing.
Exactly.
Yeah, instead of, so I know says, don't tell me anymore, because I'm smart.
We're done here.
Don't tell me what to do. Yeah, so those are the things. If you wrote them down, they'll change your life, I promise.
Okay, well, we're moving on to number 5. Find out what your love language is. So I don't know if there was a book written years ago called The 5 Love Languages, and there's many. It's on websites now. It's very popular, so I'll just run through the 5 that there are. One of them is words of affirmation, which is like praise or acknowledgement, or you're affirming your partner or somebody for what they've done or how they look or anything. Number 2 would be acts of service. So that's we're actually doing something, and for some people that's the favorite thing, is to have somebody do something for them. Receiving gifts is another one. Quality time is another one. And physical touch or affection is the 5th one. So it's important to find out what yours are, and it's also important to find out what your partner's love language is, or your children's love language, or your parents' love language, or how they, how people receive love, and how they like to receive love, and how they connect, and how you like to receive it, and you can share that with your partner too, vice versa. And so there's, I know you can go on websites. There's different websites. If you Google it, and they have quizzes on it. Bruce Doherty that has a Conscious Partner and Conscious Quest and grow shops that he does all over southern western Canada. You can go on his website. It's called consciouspartner.com, and he's got the little quiz on there where you can find out your love languages. He does workshops on the love languages, and when he's here in Lethbridge, we always join him. So so love languages are important, and recognize that ultimately, if you think about it, like receiving gifts, they're all gifts in a way to the other person, right? It's all a way of showing love or affection, or wanting to give something to the other person. So ultimately, they're all gifts, but just there's different forms, and we all probably like all of them to some degree, but there's going to be 1 or 2 that are going to be pretty primary for most people. So once you kind of recognize it and look at it, and once your partner knows, like if I bring Lisa flowers and then go downstairs to watch TV while she's cleaning up after supper, she's going to say, well, I'd rather not have the flowers and rather have you helping me spend time with me in the kitchen, or cleaning up or making supper. Either way, that's what you would prefer, to be saying, oh, here's a gift, Lisa, now I'm going to ditch you.
Yeah.
And other people might think, oh my God, I got these beautiful flowers. You go relax, have a beer, watch TV, I'll clean up. And while you're admiring these beautiful flowers, that might really make their heart sing, right? So you never know for some people. So that's why it's different for different people. And most people, you often think that my love language is going to be the same as your love language. So you're like, well, this is how I like to receive, so this is how I'm going to give. And then it doesn't end up working because that person doesn't receive it the same, or doesn't have the same value or that you have on those things. So it's important to know really what your partner wants from you, and your partner knows what you want from them.
And I'll tell you a really quick and easy way to find out your partner's love language, or your child. Just say, how do you feel most loved by me?
And they'll be like, when you...
And there you got it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And your kids won't even know it's coming, right? They'll say, oh, when you lay in bed and snuggle me at night. Or they'll say, when you text me and tell me I'm doing a good job.
So that's words of affirmation.
Yeah,
right?
It'll all be different.
Or is it cuddling or that affectionate time? Yeah, for sure.
And I'm going to just add to that one quick, because when we work with couples, we get them to find out their love language. And then sometimes, like, a person in the partnership will say, well, it's really hard for me to show affection. And I'm like, well, that's how they need it. So you have to make an effort. If you want this relationship to work, you have to be willing to make an effort. And we even say, put a reminder on your phone, right? A little an alarm that says, affirm your partner today in their love language. Yeah.
Maybe every 4 hours or every 8 hours with a little reminder to say, oh, I'm going to just put some words of affirmation, or remember to show some affection or something, right?
Yep.
So
I think, when my partner comes home from work, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and I'm going to go give him like a 5-second hug. I know where your mind's going. Okay. All right. Number 6 is own your projections. And I think we've already even had a show about projections, have we not?
Yes, we
have.
Projections, yeah.
So what is a projection? It's any time you find yourself judging someone else, or whether you act on it or say it, or if that judgment and that criticism is still in your mind, right? You can keep it to yourself, but it's already you're criticizing, and we've probably all found ourselves doing that. We'll notice somebody and we'll criticize them for something. How they did a job or didn't do a job well, or how they're dressed, or how they talk, or the color of their skin, or however we do it.
Mm-hmm.
We've all done it. So it doesn't matter if you say it out loud or if you've actually got the thoughts going through your head. It's a projection. And a projection is, if I see that in you and I'm judging it, then it is in me. And I'm judging it because I do the same thing.
And you judge yourself for it, but you've also buried it deep inside yourself, and you don't want to actually recognize it in yourself. So that's why it's easier to project it on somebody else than to recognize it in yourself. And I know that can be a hard concept to get your head around.
I know, it's a big one.
But that always ends up being the truth.
We could do a whole workshop on
Like,
projections.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are thousands of examples.
And projection is just blaming, like saying you did this, or you didn't do this right, or I judge you for that, or I criticize you for that. And it's usually because it's in yourself. And this is a really easy way, is when we judge somebody, we're going like this, like we're going, you're doing this to me, or you're not making me happy. And then making me happy is a good one, because that was number one.
That's right, yeah.
Right? Is if you aren't making me happy, then you go, how am I not making myself happy?
Or the one where there's one finger there,
there's three pointing at me.
Back at me, so
yeah, so
more important.
So whenever we see that, it's like, okay, it's in me. So that's what I'm judging.
And recognize that if it wasn't a judgment in yourself, and it was a healed part of you, or a part where you're at peace with yourself, then when you see it in somebody else, it's not a judgment, it would be compassion.
Yes.
It would be like, oh, I recognize that is something that's maybe not the most socially acceptable, the best way that this person could be acting, but I'm not going to judge you for it or say that you're wrong or blame you. I'm going to look at you compassionate and say, gosh, I wonder why you would do that, or what's created that for you. Because that's not part of my experience. Or maybe if it was, it's not anymore.
Right.
But if you're judging it, it's in you as well, and there's some self-judgment there to go along with it.
And the example I wrote down and wanted to talk about, and I'm going to use a quick one because it comes up easy. People say it often, I can't stand a liar. Like, someone who lies to me is a deal breaker. And then you go, oh, okay. Well, I guess you got to own that one yourself, right? Because if you're triggered by a liar, there's a liar in you too.
Exactly.
That is it, right? And you got to say, where have I not been fully in my own integrity, that I'm judging other people about theirs?
Or you've been wounded by a liar, and so you've taken that lying piece and you've buried it really deep because you're not willing to accept that that's part of your reality. Something along that line as well. And another one that I find really easy to kind of, when I first started to understand it, was trusting. Like, I can't trust this person. It's hard to trust people. It's like, well, can you actually trust yourself? Or the places where you don't feel trustworthy in yourself. And again, so you might go way on the deep end of being acting so trustworthy, over the top trustworthy, because you know there's this piece of you that is untrustworthy, and you try to keep that buried and pushed away so nobody will ever see it. But then when you see it somewhere else, boom, you're going to nail them.
Judge them.
Yeah.
And then the quick thing that I wrote down while you were talking is, we often say, why are you doing that? When actually we need to be saying, what has happened to you in your life that's created this? Right?
Yeah.
And and also if you can say that to somebody else, what's happened to you that's created this? What's happened to me that's creating this place of judgment?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So then all of a sudden you have compassion. You have compassion instantly.
And there's oftentimes you actually have a shared experience in some ways. The fact that because this person's acting that way, you've got the similar wound and you're judging it yourself, or you choose to project it, but it's because you have common wounds.
Right.
And common stuff that you can
And that's we could go so deep into that one.
Yeah,
but the conscious question on that one is, the one person at work that always drives me completely crazy, always thinks she knows everything about everything, how do I handle it? So now that we've talked about owning our projections, right? If that person's driving you crazy, that you're judging them because they think that they know everything about everything, you gotta take it and go, if I am judging her as a know-it-all, then what's in me? A know-it-all. I like to be a know-it-all too. So I have to own that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you had a really good comment about that. If you want to share that.
Well, I was going to say about the know-it-all part. Sometimes, too, you can go both ways, where it's almost like you can say, I've been so offended by know-it-alls in the past that I like to kind of play stupid sometimes. So now the know-it-all shows up. Well, you're thinking that's their way of coping, and you're saying, well, the know-it-all was a negative part of my life experience when I was younger. So I started to play kind of dumb.
Or silent.
Or silent, or exactly. So then a know-it-all shows up, and then it'll bring up all these buried feelings and emotions, right? So there's always two sides to the spectrum. Yeah.
And then also, if there's a know-it-all like in your workplace, you could, instead of judging them, saying, wow, thank you for sharing. You always have something to share about every topic, and I really appreciate that. And soon as you're empathetic and understanding towards someone like that, then they don't have to prove it anymore.
A lot of times it is. It's their own insecurities, and they're trying to prove something. And even if you go even as far as say, wow, you know a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff, and then they'll just they'll say, gosh, you've actually recognized that?
Now I don't have to prove it.
No, I don't have to prove it anymore. I can back off on being an know-it-all. And then it makes it easier for everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, great one. Thank you for bringing that back up. Okay, moving on to number 7.
Yeah.
Okay, number 7 is forgiveness. So basically when it comes to forgiveness, it's starting with being willing to forgive. That's really where it starts. And if you really start to get some of your own self-awareness, recognize that forgiveness starts with yourself. So just like projections, before you can forgive others, you really have to forgive yourself, because not forgiving somebody in some ways is a projection of you not forgiving yourself for certain things. And so because you don't want to face that yourself, and you kind of want to push it down and bury it, you'll say, oh, there's somebody I can't forgive, or there's something that's unforgivable. And you're like, really? So
where's that in me?
Where is that in me? Where have I got places that I feel I'm unforgivable? And so again, once you get to that place and you are aware of, and if go so far as to heal those pieces inside yourself, you're able to have compassion and forgiveness for the people around you. And all you recognize is like, I wonder what happened to them that made them that way.
And
Or
can I add to
act
that?
that way, react that way, whatever.
Is everybody's doing the best we know how to do. And when we know how to do better, we do better. And everybody acts from this place of awareness and knowledge and experience that they have. We don't go into this world just ready to sabotage every relationship. We're taking all our baggage from our childhood and what we witnessed from our parents and from our experiences, and we're bringing them with us. And until we look at that, we're going to judge the people around us, and we're going to have a hard time forgiving. Because am I doing the very best I know how to do? Yeah. When I know better, I do better. And everybody's the same. We're all the same. Our parents did the best that they knew how to do, and we did the best as parenting as we knew how to do. And everybody's doing the best they know how to do.
Exactly. Yeah, so we can see people that are, acting what seem inappropriately or in whatever way, recognize what has happened to them that would make them feel that that's the right way to act in this situation.
And it's even, I feel that way even when I see somebody really struggling, to even survive, and they're just barely, finding shelter on the street and begging for food. I just think, wow, what happened to you? Nobody starts their life by saying, all I want to do is eat out of dumpsters and sleep on the street. Nobody does.
No,
nobody does. We all want to have a fulfilling, rewarding life. And our life circumstances and our life experiences shape every choice that we make. And we have a weekly challenge that came up.
Do you want to talk about the weekly challenge?
Yeah.
Okay, so this week we, just on the weekend, we were just leaving. We park in the back, so we go down our back alley when we leave our house all the time. And when we get to the end of the alley, slow down. We're just off the main drag, so we have a lot of pedestrian traffic that's coming to get back into the neighborhood, and they cross right where our alley exits. So because we see pedestrians there all the time, we always come out of the alley very slowly and at a crawl. But you can never see what's happening until your nose and your front tire is right out across the sidewalk before he can actually see. So anyways, we were kind of just creeping across the sidewalk. There was a fella that was on a bicycle on the sidewalk, and he was flying. And because just as we got our nose up, he was making time, and he just piled right into the side of our truck. And of course, our main concern was, holy smoke, I hope this guy's not hurt. And he just crashed the side of the truck and was flat out on the ground. And so we jumped out, and he had the wind knocked out of him, and so we didn't have any idea how bad he was hurt until he finally caught his breath and could start talking and saying how he was feeling. And luckily, some neighbors heard it and came out, and some other vehicles stopped.
In fact, I got to give our neighbors credit. At least 4 cars stopped. People came out of their house who just got out of the shower. Like, there was that much of a crash.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was a lady in bare feet said, I heard the crash while I was doing my hair, and I just came running out.
And one was a retired emergency nurse, and she was like, let me handle this, and it was amazing, the help that came out of the neighborhood.
So once he got settled, and we decided we're going to call the ambulance, because again, he was really struggling there for a little bit, just because we didn't know what it was, whether, like, what the injuries were until he would catch his breath. But by the time the ambulance came, he pretty much caught his breath, and he was doing wine, and his one hand was certainly banged up, had probably some sore ribs, but he didn't hit his head or anything else more serious. Anyway, so we talked about it, and he said, you know what, I know it's my fault. I was going too fast on the sidewalk, crossing an alley, knowing that a vehicle could be coming out. And we're like, well,
and he says he does it every day.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, and it was an older gentleman, older than us, and but he's riding a bike, doesn't have a license, doesn't have a car, and so we kind of felt compassionate for him too. And even though when we recognized him, the police ended up coming because it was an incident.
The fire truck
came, and the ambulance was there, and they
wild.
checked him over, and once they recognized he was fine, off they went, and the police took a statement from each one of us. But and so yes, it was his fault because he was riding a bicycle on the sidewalk, which
without a helmet,
which isn't really legal. He should have been on the street, and should have been, because there's no way you can stop going that fast on the sidewalk for that kind of a thing. And so yes, there's a damage to our truck. Yeah, there's scratches and a couple of small dents, and but it's not like the vehicle is pristine. I mean, it's fairly new, but it's not pristine. Yet at the same time, and he was very kind. He gave us his name, his phone number, his address. He says, let you know what the damages are, and but ultimately, we're just looking at it as an accident. He didn't intend it. We didn't intend it. More than anything, we're happy he wasn't injured any more serious than just a bruised hand and probably a few other sore spots. But we're willing to just let that go.
And we recognize too that it could have gone so much differently. Like, he could have judged us for driving quickly, or
he could have tried to blame us.
He owned it. He owned it.
Yeah.
Absolutely in the moment, and said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And
I know, possibly legally, I think they'll say maybe before you cross, you're supposed to come to a complete stop and then creep out. I don't know, that might be the rule too, but we always go through slowly so that anybody can see your nose coming, have time to stop. But yeah, so we take shared responsibility, and it was a timing thing more than anything, and it's one of those things. Accidents happen, and so even though maybe there's some fault there, and you look for liability or whatever like that. Do we want to take somebody who doesn't have a vehicle, doesn't have a license, is riding his bike around town, and want him to be responsible to fix, a small dent and scratch on our vehicle?
Right.
So, and we were saying, no, we don't need that from him. We're just happy he's not hurt.
Yeah, and you really pointed out a really good point. You said his best day probably
isn't as good as some
is
of
our
worst
days, and I really thank Don for being that guy. Like, you could have been a jerk, but you weren't.
Yeah, I could have.
Right?
Yeah.
And he could have been a jerk too.
Oh, he totally
it could have been a conflict. It could have been.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Everybody just took responsibility for themselves, and we were compassionate and understanding, and literally the whole neighborhood came out to the street to support him. So it actually turned into kind of a precious time of, I couldn't believe how amazing our neighborhood was.
Yeah, I was happy to see that too.
Yeah.
Everybody was very responsive.
Yeah, it was amazing. And we just have to let it go. It was a mistake. We forgive him. We forgive ourselves. Are we going to drive more cautiously out of our Back alley? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's going to probably be more cautious too.
And I'm sure he'll ride his bike a little more cautiously too. Yeah.
Are we more able to fix the dent in our truck? 100%.
Yeah.
He's not able to.
No.
It
So
was
why make the situation
worse on him.
Trying to make that happen.
Yeah. So that's what forgiveness is all about.
So I think we passed that challenge.
We did. Good job. So number 8 is love yourself first. And I know this sounds like a bit of a cliche, and people say it all the time, and you hear it on Pinterest and Facebook. But really, how can you give from an empty cup? And it's really the fundamental of a lot of issues that go on in our lives, and it's not our fault. We got to recognize that we didn't have perfect childhoods, and there's a lot of old limiting beliefs that were created in our life that just keep recycling through our life and affect every decision that we have in our life. So, so we have to ask ourselves, limiting beliefs or anything that holds us back in our life, like I'm not strong enough, or I don't have enough money, or I'm not skinny enough, or smart enough, or I don't have any opportunity, or our family's always poor, or it just never ends. That's a limiting belief.
Life is hard.
Life is hard.
I'll never get ahead.
Or nobody gives me a break. I'm sure the guy on the bike that hit our truck went,
Can I get a break?
Can I get a break? Yeah. You got a break. So it starts with really understanding, where did this idea come from, and now how is it affecting me? And what we have to really be aware of is a limiting belief is the negativity that runs through our mind. And if we just really stop for a whole day and write down every negative thing that you have playing through your mind, you would be shocked at how much negativity there would be. And imagine if you used all that negativity and you said that to somebody else. Well, you're too fat and you're not smart and nobody's going to give you a chance. And
they say if you talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself,
you'd never have any friends.
You'd never have any friends, exactly.
Yes.
You wouldn't be your friend for long.
Right. So to really love yourself is accepting every part of yourself. Accepting if you feel like you need to lose 10 pounds or whatever you need to do, and stop comparing yourself to others. Getting healthy, making good food choices, drinking the amount of water that you need to drink, having self-reflection or meditating, and then journaling if that's something that can help you connect with yourself. Using affirmations, and affirmations are anything that you can create about your life that's personal, positive, and present tense, like I am strong, I am capable, I can do hard things, I'm smart enough, I have enough money for everything I need. That's a positive affirmation. But negative affirmations can be the opposite, and we have to remember that that's creating our future as well. And recognizing that, we have to forgive ourselves when we make mistakes. Do exercise that we love. Forgive others and ourselves first, because we really don't know how to do things better until we know how. Learn to say no if we need to, creating really safe and healthy boundaries around our life. And don't be afraid to take yourself off the hook when you make a mistake. Quit being so hard on yourself. Say, hey, I'm gonna have a do-over and I'll do better the next time. And I'm going to use an example and we use it often, is when a baby's learning to walk, do we criticize them for falling down and saying, well, you're not smart enough to walk, you're never going to make it, stop trying. We'd never do that, but we do it to ourselves, right? We know that we'd never criticize a baby for when they're learning to walk. So we got to really give ourselves credit when we're learning to walk, when it comes to learning a new skill or a new thing in our life, and just encouragement and love and understanding. So we have to really start doing that for ourselves, and that's how we really learn to love ourselves and accept ourselves for who we are. And when we start to do that, then we see life differently, because if I don't love me, you're never going to be able to love me either, because I won't allow it. It's just how the energy works. So I have to do that for myself and say, hey, I'm lovable and I'm worthy of a good relationship. And
Because if underneath all that negative self-talk is this underlying piece that I'm not lovable, how is your partner ever going to be able to get in and
yeah,
actually love you?
you can't. I'm not available.
Yeah, that makes it hard. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when you switch that around to I am lovable, I am worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
And I am enough,
valuable.
and I always will be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things you want to be telling yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right, move on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, number 9 is to have a growth mindset. And we've talked about that before as well. Recognize that if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to continue to get the same results. And if the results you're getting aren't the results you want, then you got to start doing something different. So growth mindset, it all starts with self-awareness. Like, are you willing to explore who you are, like who you really are, and who you want to become, and recognize what the difference is between those two. So you've got to start exploring your thoughts, your beliefs, your judgments, and where do they all come from. And we've touched on this earlier too. There's childhood stuff that's happened to us. There's family patterns that get passed on. There's patterns that we've created in our own lives, from choices that we've made. And they may have served you then. Do they continue to serve you now? And is it time to make a different choice in some aspects of your life? So again, growth mindset starts with self-awareness and deciding what actually would serve me now. And when you start exploring those pieces, you can let go of the things that no longer serve you and start doing the things that do serve you.
And can I add to that too?
Please.
Having a growth mindset when it comes to your primary partnership, your workplace, and family, it's saying I'm willing to learn something different. Because a closed mindset says my way or the highway.
Right.
Because I know how to do this. Right? And a growth mindset says I'm open to change,
Yeah.
I'm open to learn, and I'm open to a new perspective. Right? And when you go in with a growth mindset, people go, that's a team player that I want to connect with, right?
Yeah.
Or someone I want to have a partnership with.
Yeah. And then saying, gosh, this really isn't working. What can we do different? What could we do different?
Absolutely. So the last
Great.
one, number 10, is triggers and conflict are going to happen. And who would agree with that?
Yeah.
Conflict's going to happen in every situation and trigger. You're going to be triggered. Yeah. And how can that make a relationship stronger? Well, first that we have to recognize that it's going to happen. If we're in a relationship, let's say an intimate partner relationship, and there's no conflict, you're not really in a good relationship. We'd never fight. You're not fighting because you're not dealing with any issues. Because conflict's going to come up when you start dealing with your issues. And conflict's there to say, here's a conflict on the table. How are you feeling about it? How am I feeling about it? How can we come to a compromise? And why do you feel that way? And why do I feel that way?
Coming from? Exactly.
Right? And is it coming from a true place? Right?
Or is it from a past wound? Or where is that coming from? Yeah.
Yes. And then the triggers are anything that if it's like a hot button inside of me, a trigger, like the liars that we mentioned earlier. If I'm very triggered by a liar and I think my partner or my coworker or my children lied to me, they're pushing that button. But those people did not create that button inside of me. That button was created by another life experience in my childhood or a partnership or something that happened that I decided that was going to be a hot spot for me. So we have to go and take that person off the hook. And we do it all the time. I'm triggered by you and I know it's not you, it's my stuff. So to finish this off is we own our own stuff, right? If I'm triggered, then I have to recognize that I am and say, you're off the hook, this is mine. So I'm willing to look at me, where it's come from, and how I'm going to work through it.
And that takes a lot of practice.
A lot of practice.
Because we're so used to getting triggered and then reacting. So we've learned how when we teach people how to get triggered, and you stop, you breathe, and you say, okay, where is this coming from in me? And then you can get to the point where you're saying, you're thankful, grateful to the person that triggered you because they just showed you a piece that you get to actually get some access to and do a little work around. And then you get to move forward in that from that place, as opposed to having this constant trigger there, and then never dealing and just using it and blaming instead.
And a trigger really is developed in and around the attachment style. If your needs weren't met, if you were under 3, if all your needs weren't met as a child and you didn't have parents that were bonded in love and connected, you weren't demonstrated or modeled a loving relationship and your needs weren't being met. So there's parts of you that are created that will hold you back and create those limiting beliefs that I talked about. But the good news is you can get through them, right?
Exactly.
You're not stuck there forever.
Yeah, once you start looking at them in a different way and recognizing what the triggers are really there for and the benefit that they can bring.
Yeah, and actually that person becomes a gift to you. Thank you for bringing that up in me, because it's up for me to look at. And if I don't look at it now, someone else will bring it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So.
And even saying, even though it's uncomfortable, I don't like feeling these feelings, but I'm willing to
look at it. I want to own it. It's mine.
And I'm
It's
willing
mine.
to get some awareness around it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's 10.
Yeah.
Nice job.
And there's so many more.
Exactly. Okay, so we are LifeWorks International. We are internationally licensed life coaches and workshop instructors. We coach singles, couples, families. We do workshops and events and programs around Southern Alberta and Western Canada. And we're here to create more success for you personally and professionally.
Yeah, and people hire us when they're tired of the struggle and they're ready to make the changes in their life to make and create a life that they love and that they deserve. Employers hire us when they're looking for professional development programs to help their teams, their professional teams, connect and create a better bottom line and a culture that works and is successful. And our quote of the week this week is, conflict doesn't ruin a relationship, lack of connection does.
Good one. And as we always say, once you become fearless, life becomes limitless. I'd like to thank everybody for watching tonight, and we will see you again. We're back next month. Not sure what Tuesday it is, but we're gonna do one more show in August, and then we'll start doing weekly shows starting in September again.
All right, good night.
Great.